Imagine this. Two friends, same age, same salary, same city in the United States. One rents an apartment, the other proudly buys a home. Fast forward 10 years, and the renter is actually richer. Sounds impossible, right? Because we've been taught one rule our entire lives. Renting is throwing money away. Buying a home is always the smart financial move. But what if I told you that rule is incomplete, and there's a simple 5% rule that quietly decides whether renting or buying makes sense, yet almost nobody talks about it? Today, we're breaking the biggest myth in personal finance, not with emotions, not with opinions, but with real math, real American costs, and real-life decisions that affect millions of people. By the end of this video, you'll know something most homeowners don't. Let's start with a story. Meet Jake. Jake lives in Dallas, Texas. He earns $85,000 a year, a solid, very normal American income. Jake believes buying a home is the ultimate goal. So when he sees a $400,000 house, he doesn't hesitate. He puts 20% down, takes a 30-year mortgage, and feels proud, feels successful, feels adult. At the same time, his friend Alex rents a similar home nearby for $2,200 a month. Jake laughs. Alex is wasting money, right? But here's where the story changes. Jake's monthly mortgage payment is about $2,100, almost the same as rent. So Jake thinks he's winning. But owning a home costs more than just the mortgage, and this is where Americans get trapped. Property tax, home insurance, maintenance, repairs, opportunity cost. Most people ignore these because they're boring, but boring numbers decide your future. This is where the 5% rule comes in. The 5% rule says this: when you buy a home, assume that 5% of the home's value per year is the true cost of owning it, not the mortgage, the ownership cost. That 5% is divided like this: 1% property taxes, 1% maintenance and repairs, and 3% opportunity cost of your money. Let's apply it. Jake's home is worth $400,000. 5% of that is $20,000 per year. That's $1,666 per month. That means Jake is paying $1,666 every month just for the privilege of owning the house, before even counting the mortgage principal. Alex, on the other hand, pays $2,200 rent. But here's the difference. Jake's $1,666 is money he never gets back. It disappears forever. Alex doesn't have those ownership costs, and instead of locking $80,000 into a house, Alex invests that money. This is where things flip. Alex invests his down payment into low-cost index funds. Historically, the U.S. stock market returns about 7% after inflation. That $80,000 quietly grows year after year. No repairs, no broken AC, no roof replacement, no surprise bills. Jake, meanwhile, replaces a roof for $12,000, fixes plumbing, pays higher property taxes every year, and still owes most of his mortgage after a decade. This doesn't mean buying is bad. It means buying blindly is dangerous. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. Buying a home is not always an investment. Sometimes it's a lifestyle choice. Sometimes it's emotional security. Sometimes it's forced savings. And sometimes it's a financial mistake. The 5% rule gives you clarity. If the annual cost of owning a home using the 5% rule is higher than rent, renting is financially smarter. If rent is higher, buying might make sense. But America never teaches this because buy a house sounds responsible. Rent and invest sounds risky. Yet wealthy Americans quietly understand this rule. They don't ask, can I afford the monthly payment? They ask, what is my true cost of ownership? This is why in cities like New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, many millionaires still rent, not because they can't buy, but because the math doesn't justify it. And this brings us to the biggest mistake. People compare rent versus mortgage payment. That's the wrong comparison. You must compare rent versus 5% of home value per year. Once you do that, everything changes. Now let's be clear. Buying can be smart if you plan to stay long-term, rent is extremely high, you value stability, you're disciplined with money, and you don't stretch your budget. But buying is risky if you buy for ego, ignore maintenance, assume prices only go up, or lock all your cash into one asset. A home is not a stock. It's illiquid, expensive to sell, emotionally charged. The 5% rule doesn't tell you what to do, it tells you how to think. And thinking correctly is what separates rich decisions from poor ones. So next time someone says renting is throwing money away, ask them one question. Have you calculated the 5% cost? Most won't know what you're talking about. Now you do. And that knowledge alone puts you ahead of millions. Because personal finance isn't about following the crowd. It's about understanding the math behind the emotion. And the 5% rule, it's the quiet truth nobody talks about.
Now, let's talk about the part nobody warns you about until it's too late. Equity. This is where homeowners usually jump in and say, wait, but I'm building equity every month. Sounds good, feels good. But let's slow down and look at what actually happens in the first 10 years of a 30-year American mortgage. In the early years, most of your payment doesn't go toward the house. It goes to interest. On a typical $400,000 home with today's rates, you can easily pay over $300,000 in interest alone over the life of the loan. That means for years, you're not really owning more of the house, you're renting money from the bank. Jake believes he's getting richer because his home value went up, but appreciation isn't guaranteed, and even when prices rise, they don't rise evenly. America learned this the hard way in 2008. Home prices dropped, people lost jobs, but mortgages didn't disappear. Homes are leveraged assets. That means small changes can destroy big dreams. Now compare that to Alex. Alex rents. Alex invests monthly. Every paycheck, money automatically goes into diversified assets, stocks, index funds, retirement accounts. Alex's wealth isn't tied to one neighborhood, one city, one market. This is called diversification, and diversification is how wealth survives bad times. Here's another hidden cost of buying a home: mobility. When Jake gets a better job offer in another state, he hesitates. Selling costs money. Agents take fees. Markets move slowly. Alex moves in 30 days. In the modern U.S. economy, flexibility is currency. People change jobs more than ever. Remote work shifts cities. Industries rise and fall fast. Renting gives you freedom. Buying gives you roots. Neither is wrong, but pretending one is always smarter is dangerous. Now let's talk about psychology. Owning a home makes people feel safe. That feeling is real, but safety has a price. Many Americans overbuy because of emotion. They buy more space than they need, bigger mortgage, bigger maintenance, bigger stress. And stress kills wealth quietly. Because when money feels tight, people stop investing. They stop taking smart risks. They live paycheck to paycheck in a house they own. This is how you end up house rich and cash poor. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. A primary home is not designed to make you rich. It's designed to make you stable. Wealth usually comes from businesses, investments, and ownership of productive assets, not from the place you sleep. The 5% rule reminds us of that. It strips emotion from the decision. It replaces hope with math, and math doesn't care about social pressure. Now let's answer the question everyone really wants answered. So, should I rent or buy? The honest answer is this: you should buy when buying improves your life and the numbers make sense. You should rent when renting gives you flexibility and lets you invest more. The worst decision is buying because you're afraid of renting. The worst decision is renting without investing the difference. Renting only works if you invest. Buying only works if you don't stretch yourself. That's the balance. So next time you see someone flexing house keys on social media, remember this: you don't see their property tax bill. You don't see their repair costs. You don't see their stress. And when someone laughs at renting, remember this: wealth is not about appearances, it's about net worth. And net worth grows when you understand the rules most people ignore. The 5% rule isn't popular because it doesn't sell dreams, but it protects futures. And if you understand this early, you don't just make better housing decisions, you make better life decisions. Because money isn't about owning things, it's about owning options. And options are real freedom.
If you found this valuable, subscribe, because this channel doesn't sell dreams, it explains reality, and reality is what builds real wealth.